Welcome to Bad at Goodbyes. Each week on our show, we spotlight species from the IUCN Critically Endangered Red List. These are plants and animals with decreasing populations, nearing the edges of extinction. And so we'll share species research, information, and conservation proposals, and then spend part of the show opening a space for contemplation and awe. We'll improvise a soundscape of gentleness, of reflection, of delight, and perhaps of grieving. Without conservation activity and significant societal shift, many of these species may not survive the 21st century. And so perhaps we might acknowledge their journey with a moment of our attention, a recognition of our kinship, and with a commitment to personal and systemic change. Thank you for listening. On today's show, we consider the Macedonian Grayling. The Macedonian Grayling is a critically endangered butterfly, native to the White Marble Mountains of North Macedonia in southeastern Europe. Scientific name is Pseudochazara cingovskii, and it was first described in 1973. The Macedonian Grayling is a small butterfly with a roughly 2-inch wingspan. The bottom side of their wings, the ventral side, that's the sides we see when the wings are closed, are light gray and pale yellow with light brown patches and soft, slightly darker lines. This coloration and patterning is a camouflage adapted to their habitat. They convincingly blend into the stony marble landscape of their range. The top side of the Macedonian Grayling's wings, that's the dorsal side, the side we see when the wings are open, are a grayish brown with stripes of pale yellow that darken into a reddish yellow and with 2 large dark black ocelli per wing. Ocelli are eye spots. These are circular patterns on the wings of many butterfly and moth that mimic eyes. This is an adaptation to confuse and startle potential predators, birds, spiders, and dragonflies. So there's 2 protective strategies at play here. An initial reliance on stealth, camouflage, avoiding detection, and then by simply opening their wings, the butterfly can use fear and surprise to deter their predators. These are vital adaptations, as the Macedonian Grayling is considered generally sedentary. They are infrequent flyers. They fly in small, short bursts, rarely rising more than a few feet off the ground. And most of their days are spent basking or resting, and throughout their lives, they'll remain within a very small area, roughly less than half a square mile. Macedonian graylings are cold-blooded, ectothermic, and so early mornings are spent basking on south-facing slopes of marble rock to raise their body temperature. Then they'll forage, feeding nearby on the flower's nectar of knapweed and prickly thrift plants. As temperatures peak in the afternoon, they rest in the shade, in rock crevices or under overhangs or in shrub foliage to survive the midday heat. They'll briefly rouse again before dusk, and then with sunset, as temps cool, the butterfly goes dormant for the night. The Macedonian grayling has an annual univoltine life cycle, meaning they live for roughly a year and produce one brood of offspring per year. They have 4 stages in their lives. First, the larval stage, emerging from their eggs in July or August as tiny caterpillars. They feed on meadowgrass and fescue and grow through summer and autumn in a series of molts. The caterpillar have a hard protective exoskeleton, and so as they consume plant matter and grow in size, this exoskeleton becomes like a physical constraint. They get too big for their armor. And so in order to continue growing, the caterpillar must shed this constrictive casing and replace it with a larger one. So they produce hormones to begin to detach from their old exoskeleton and release a molting fluid that dissolves the inner parts of their old skin, recycling these digested nutrients to grow a new, larger exoskeleton underneath. To then shed the old outer part, the caterpillar swallows air or water, swelling its body, splitting open the old exoskeleton, which it crawls out of. Then after emerging, the caterpillar must expand its new exoskeleton before it hardens. It continues to swell itself up while a chemical reaction occurs in the new skin cells, strengthening and stiffening the exoskeleton. A new, larger suit of armor to grow into until they need to molt again. With the Macedonian grayling, this process repeats through the autumn until the weather cools and the caterpillar goes dormant for the winter, slowing life functions, halting feeding, growth, and development. The state is called diapause. And then when the weather warms and the landscape greens in the springtime, the Macedonian grayling returns to feeding and molting until roughly May, after which they pupate and undergo metamorphosis. So before their final molt, the last shedding of exoskeleton, they burrow into the soil, creating a tiny underground chrysalis in which to transform. Small pedantic note here. Moths metamorphose in cocoons. Butterflies metamorphose in chrysalises. So, metamorphosis inside the chrysalis, our caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Safely underground, the Macedonian grayling caterpillar sheds its final exoskeleton and then releases digestive fluids, specialized chemicals that break down its own muscles, digestive tract, and much of its nervous system into a nutrient-rich swirl of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. This is the fuel for its forthcoming transformation. And while most of the caterpillar's tissues are broken down, its respiratory system and its heart continue to function, and the imaginal discs remain intact. Imaginal discs are cell clusters. Think like stem cells that will differentiate into adult butterfly body structures. There's an imaginal disc for the head, for the thorax, 2 for the forewings, 2 for the hind wings, 6 for the legs, etc. And so these cell clusters absorb the surrounding broken down liquid nutrients and grow, expanding into more complex structures and then connecting to one another. The wing discs grow to meet the thorax disc, the legs to the thorax to the head, cells continuing to specialize and differentiate, structures connecting until we have a butterfly. The butterfly then emerges from its underground pupal shell through the soil to the surface. Their wings at this point are soft and tiny, but they quickly harden, and our new adult takes their first flight. Adult Macedonian grayling live for only about 2 weeks, basking, resting, avoiding predators, and seeking a mate. The wings of the adult male grayling have specialized androconial scales, scent scales, that produce pheromones to attract females. This is a form of sexual communication received via antennae that help female butterfly locate and assess potential male mates. Butterfly mate tail to tail, and after mating, the female seeks potential egg-laying sites. Unlike many butterfly who lay eggs on the plants on which their larvae feed, Macedonian graylings oviposit means lay their eggs, in tiny cracks in the marble rock of their habitat. The eggs develop for about 3 weeks, the larvae emerge, and we begin again that 4-part life cycle. A few weeks as an egg, about 10 months as a molting caterpillar, about a month as a pupa metamorphosing underground, and then just a few weeks as an adult butterfly. In the dream of all earthbound, hungry things, to change, to become beautiful, to fly. To shed the stiff constrictions that can no longer hold me. To break down the bits that no longer serve me. To reorganize my longings into something brighter, something lighter. To bask, to flutter, to sip A flower's nectar, howsoever briefly, in the dream. The Macedonian grayling is native to central North Macedonia in southeastern Europe, specifically to the Pletvar Pass, a mountainous region in the Prelip municipality. This is a landscape of steep white marble and limestone slopes with minimal soil and vegetation, and arid, high-altitude, rocky shrubland, where the white stone reflects sunlight, creating a kind of microclimate significantly warmer than the surrounding areas. Blocks of white and light gray marble protrude from the mountain slopes in outcrops marked by fissures and crevices. This is a rough, textured landscape of gorges and rock fragments, small stones and large boulders, with pockets of sparse vegetation, low-lying shrubs, and grasses. Here, the Macedonian grayling is found in 7 small subpopulations across 2 hillsides, at altitudes of 1/2 to 1 mile above sea level, a total area of less than 4 square miles. And so, though all concentrated in this small area, tracking studies have shown that the sedentary nature of the grayling means that these subpopulations rarely interbreed. The climate here is very seasonal. Summer months are hot and dry, with high temperatures reaching into the 90s Fahrenheit. But the winters are cold and sometimes snowy, with temperatures dropping into the 20s Fahrenheit. The area receives roughly 25 inches per year of precipitation, with the majority falling during spring and autumn. The Macedonian grayling shares its marbled mountain with prickly thrift, Balkan crocus, Macedonian cicada, bug orchid, Balkan fir, European field cricket, juniper, orchard grass, meadow grass, golden eagle, wall lizard, Hungarian oak, scarce swallowtail, marble rock rose, sheep's fescue, rock thrush, knapweed, wild boar, gray wolf, nose-horned viper, Macedonian mouse, Egyptian vulture, biting stonecrop, rock partridge, and many, many more. In the 20th and now into the 21st century, the primary threat to the Macedonian grayling is industrial mining, commercial marble extraction. Currently, active quarries mine at 5 of the 7 subpopulation sites, with wide-ranging impact on the butterfly's habitat. There is, of course, direct habitat destruction, the landscape marred by industrial equipment and marble extraction itself. Additionally, mining processes also produce a fine particulate matter, this is marble dust, that settles on surrounding vegetation, rendering it inedible to a grayling caterpillar. And mining results in runoff toxic with heavy metals, like zinc or lead, that pollute nearby groundwater, which is then absorbed by the grasses the caterpillar feeds on and by the flowering shrubs that the adult sips from, harmful to both. Poaching is an additional contemporary threat. The Macedonian Grayling's rarity means it is a sought-after specimen in the black market exotic insect species trade. An October 2025 article in the Brussels Times reports that Macedonian grayling individuals are poached, killed, pinned in display cases, and legally sold for 18 to 50 euros, so like 35 bucks. A loophole in EU conservation law means that, quote, there are no penalties for selling or possessing Macedonian grayling specimen once they have entered the EU market. And so, while poaching of the species in Macedonia is illegal, sale of the specimen in the EU, because of this loophole, is, in fact, legal. And lastly, anthropogenic, that's human-induced. Climate change is an approaching threat. Climate models indicate that global warming resulting from the persistent over-reliance on fossil fuels threatens over half of Europe's endangered butterflies, including our Macedonian grayling. The grayling's already arid habitat will see increasing drought and extreme temperatures and weather in a warmer future. Fortunately, the North Macedonia government enacted legal protection of the Macedonian grayling in 2011. These are laws which banned poaching and required consideration of the species by the commercial marble mining industry. Public awareness campaigns highlighting the rarity and the need to protect the species have been implemented in the Prelep-Pletvar area. That said, mining persists in the region and poaching persists. A 2025 push to close the loophole that allows for the technically legal sale of these butterfly specimens in the EU is, as yet, unresolved. The Macedonian grayling has been considered critically endangered on the IUCN Red List since 2010, and their population is currently in decline. Our most recent counts estimate that less than 2,500 Macedonian grayling remain in the wild. Information for today's show about the Macedonian grayling was compiled from the Brussels Times, October 2025, from the Entomologist's Gazette, Volume 27, from Insects, an Outline of Entomology, 5th edition, From the Institute of Communication Studies documentary Nature for Sale. From the International Fund for Animal Welfare. From Scientific Data, Volume 7. From the 5th National Report to the Convention on Biological Diversity of the Republic of Macedonia. From Entomologica Romantica, Volume 19. From the IUCN. From the Journal of Insect Conservation, Volume 17. From Zoo Keys, Volume 600. And from Wikipedia. For more information about protecting species like the Macedonian grayling from illegal trade, please see the International Fund for Animal Welfare at ifaw.org. So in a moment, I would like to perform some music in hopes of making space to be in contemplation of the other beings with whom we share our earth, like the Macedonian grayling. I do not intend to force meaning upon or extract meaning from the Macedonian grayling. Instead, I want this music to simply express my awe for all life. And so I will pause in the space of sound and reflection, and I warmly invite you to join me. I honor the life force of the Macedonian Grayling. I will commit its name to my record. I'm grateful to have shared time on our planet with this small, beautiful being, and I lament the ways in which I and my species have harmed and diminished the species. I grieve. And so in the name of the Macedonian Grayling, I pledge to reduce my consumption, my carbon footprint, and my wastefulness. I pledge to acknowledge and attempt to address the costs of my actions and inactions. I pledge to resist the harm of plant and animal kin and their habitat by individuals, corporations, and governments. I pledge to channel my rage at poachers and species traders into productive conservation. And I forever pledge my song to the witness and memory of all life, to a broad celebration of biodiversity, and to the total liberation of all beings. This has been Matic Abies. Thank you for listening. Until next time, let's take care of each other and all of our kin.